got,
I'm just messaging him on WhatsApp. Give him a minute.
Oh, it's like my wife. You can't see her, but she always hears you. Right. Wait for him to come back and then. So, Adam, obviously we're not starting this yet, but how strange is it for you normally going around football stadiums and commentating on the people's sport and there's naff all?
It's bizarre. The whole thing's bizarre. Because I'm meant to be in Scotland right now on holiday. So I've literally worked about 4 months straight, football through however many nights a week and all that, waiting to have a nice relaxing break with the missus up north. And at the moment, I've spent the last couple of days doing lots of practical stuff at home, and yeah, missing football like everybody else.
Yeah,
it's just a very unprecedented is the word that everybody's used, but it just feels bizarre, absolutely bizarre.
Obviously, although we're recording, I'll clip all this out because we haven't started officially yet. What
Carl,
do you think will happen?
Carl, you said that last week. I said, we're recording, make sure you clip it out. And guess what you didn't do?
I know, but listen, it's trial and error.
Gaz says, will you ring him again? He thinks he's sorted it.
Oh, right, hold on.
Sorry, Adam.
All right. He said we weren't properly starting yet, so it's fine.
This is what happens when you work with amateurs, isn't it, Pete?
I'll be honest with you, lads. Until you've been sorted, I've been playing Football Manager.
Oh,
you lot are sorting this out, so
right.
All come here, so be on.
Hold on. I seem to have lost Adam.
I'm still here.
Nice.
Yeah, I can see Adam.
I can't see you.
Drop it.
Right. Oh yeah. Hold on. Adam's there. It's ringing Gaz.
We'll try it this time, Carl. If not, he'll just have to come on the show next week because.
No, he's joined. It says he's joined. I think.
Yeah, I know.
I keep getting different screens. I think whoever is talking comes on the screen. I think.
Yeah, that is the way things tend to work.
Right. Let me have a. Because I've only got Chris on my screen at the moment, but that's fine. I can live with that. So, Gaz, are you with us? Yeah, that's looking really good.
There, but we still ain't got any volume. No, I have no idea. He's definitely unlocked the mic for Skype, so it's not that.
Right.
I don't know if it's his microphone that's broken on his phone or something's not quite picking it up. I don't understand.
Right. Well, what I'll do is, because obviously, I don't know, it sounds really harsh, but I've got lots to do. I've still got to go to my mother-in-law, sort of medication, have some tea, see to the kids and everything else. So I'm just going to count down from 5 and then I'll do an introduction, Chris, hand over to you, and then we'll talk to Pete, we'll talk to Adam, and we'll just keep it like that. Is that all right?
What are we going to do about Gaz? Because he's just sat there, bless him, and we can't hear him. We can see him. I can see Gaz, but I can't hear.
Yeah, I can now. I think we're going to have to be just brutal.
Yeah, he's gone now. He's gone, but so has Adam, has he?
Adam? Right, hold on. Let me
right,
find Adam.
Adam's back.
Adam's back.
Adam should be back. Somebody just removed me.
That'll be Carl. He's...
Right. We'll just start with the 4 of us, because otherwise we'll be here at 9 o'clock tonight and it'll be dark outside in Loughborough. Pete will be trying to get his Wrexham team into the Premier League, and Adam will have just put down. Sick of hearing us talk nonsense, really.
Is this the official start then, Carl? Are you going to cut everything that you've that's happened before?
I'm gonna count down from 5 to 0 and then I'll start.
Sounds amazing. Yeah.
Well, whether it turns out like that is another matter. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, welcome to the Reds Report. A special this week with so much talk about this coronavirus and top of everybody's agenda. It's everywhere you look. It's everywhere on social media. And Chris and myself thought it'd be worthwhile to invite some guests to our Skype-type podcast and talk about the mental health side of things, because I think in general there is a little bit of momentum about mental health. in people our age, and I do admit, Chris, you are younger than me, but I'm classing everybody in bracket of 30 and over as old as me. From a personal level, then, everybody has got their own battles, has got their own demons. How are you feeling whilst all this is going off? Because I know there is plenty of happening in your family. Do you feel isolated at all with this social distancing and everything else?
I'm not sure it's quite set in yet. Obviously, we're still in early days, aren't we, in terms of social distancing? It's not been enforced for what is it now? 3.5 days, 4 days. So I think as it stands, I'm on top of it. I've managed to get myself into a routine. I'm a massive creature of habit, so I've been trying to get up at 6:30 still as I would for work, have breakfast, do some jobs, take the dog out at a certain time. Obviously, a lot of social media, that helps in this day and age. That didn't exist 10, 15, 20 years ago. There were no Facebook, no Twitter, stuff like that. So it's nice to be able to use that. And if it's used correctly, it can be a massive tool, as can Skype, as we're using right now for podcasts. I don't think it's hit me yet. And I think I am very much on top of it all at the minute, which is nice. Whether I have no doubt I'll dip. And I did dip probably 2 or 3 days ago. I had a massive dip. But at the minute, I'm at equilibrium at the minute.
Right. Pete Elwood is with us all. Pete, we're talking about mental health during this crisis and what it does to people. You're out of a job as we're speaking because obviously the job you do as a comedian, you fill rooms across the north of England and talk to people on stage. Has that made it even harder for you then?
Well, I wouldn't say I fill rooms. You get a few people every now and again. Yeah, it's difficult because you're watching. I think everyone watched the Boris announcement saying for the full lockdown, and that was their big thing. But for me, it was 2 weeks beforehand when they said people don't go to the theatre, don't go anything. Basically, that his announcement of don't go to the theatre, don't go to restaurants, just said, Pete, you ain't got a job, mate, and you haven't got a job for I reckon about 3 months. So as soon as those announcements came in, it wasn't when it became enforced. They just advised it, which, by the way, was a shithouse move. A lot of people lost out on money and stuff like that, and insurance and whatnot. But, I mean, I'm out of a job. I think the furthest I've had a gig cancelled is June the 2nd. That's a long time away. Everything else has been cancelled. So, I had one on May 31st that got cancelled. I went, oh, that's a bit far. Then one on June 2nd got cancelled. You're like, shit. So we've had to pull mine and Jack's shows. I've had to pull my own stand-up. Yeah, so you just sat here, and then it affects you a little bit because you're there going well, there's not much help. So self-employed person, I get £96 a week if I do all my flying for it and whatnot. £96 a week does not cover my rent and bills.
No.
I think I'm about 40 quid off-ish. I share it with Mrs. So it's obviously it's an interesting time when you first move in with someone. I'm really looking forward to it. I love her. It's amazing and stuff. But we are both people who work from home or are self-employed. And we're suddenly we're just next to each other all the time. And she sells stuff on Etsy. That's her main job. So she's still getting a few orders in. So she's doing all right. I'm actually in a studio here. But yeah. So now I have to look for jobs, which is I haven't done for years. It's horrible having to write a CV, and you're like, well, I've worked quite hard to within my field, which is good, but then suddenly your line of work is taken away, and then you have to apply, and you're looking at stacking shelves in Morrison's. It's just a big bit of a step. So, but again, like Chris, I've tried to. We're going on a 2-hour walk every day just to get us out of the house. We're trying to get through the Marvel films, watching them in order. Iron Man one's a shit, by the way. I've decided that now. Not in, but we're smashing through your Disney Pluses, Netflix, Amazon Primes, stuff like that. I'm trying to do writing, which is good, but when you've lost your job, stand up, and you're like, what's the point? I can't do it until 3 months time anyway. And by that point, everyone's going to be sick of hearing about crew and the based banter. But yeah, it's all right. And also the lack of football just hits you. It's a lot of people's social network is through football, like your WhatsApp groups and all that. It's all about football. A lot of your mates, you're not obviously your friends for other reasons, but one of the main focal points of a lot of friendships is football and sport and all that. And once that gets taken out, suddenly just bored, aren't you? Like you're watching Premier League years, like just wanting a fix of anything.
Yeah. And I suppose a good time to bring in Adam Oxley, who's joining us as well. Adam, you've spoken a lot about mental health. We've seen you on your walks. This does affect people, doesn't it? As Pete says, especially for me, I don't really go out on Saturday evenings or Sundays, or we might go for a meal with my wife. My main form of, I suppose, letting go and distancing myself from, society's problems and my problems is I go to Oakwell for home matches, and having no football, it isolates people even more, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The thing about football is for a lot of people that like it, it very much is all consuming, really. For me, I work in it, I play it, and it's my main hobby. So without it, it does leave a massive void in your life that isn't there. And the last few times I've presented Football Heaven, I had to sort of preload that statement with, look, everybody's health is clearly more important than football. And absolutely it is. And people's livelihoods are clearly a lot more than football, albeit that a lot of people work in football, so it does directly impact people's livelihoods. But there's a reason why billions of people around the globe watch the sport, love the sport, enjoy the sport, because it means so much to people. So it clearly isn't as much as health, but it does have a big impact on people. But the same as what Pete was saying in terms of, whatever your release is, whether it's football, whether it's film, whether it's TV, whether it's comedy, whatever it is, if that's not there, it is going to leave a little bit of a hole in your life and where, in your mental well-being. So it's a period of adjustment for us all, really. And I found what Pete and Chris, and obviously what I've heard from other people, really interesting, because at times like this, you can compare yourself to other people quite a lot. And, I'm personally not in the worst situation. I've got a job. I'm currently on leave because I was meant to be in Scotland on holiday. But I'm at home, I'm on leave, I'm filling my time okay, and I know I've got a job to go back to. So I should be sat there thinking, hold on a minute, my situation's nowhere near, as worrying, say, as what Pete's is, because he's all his work cancelled. And a lot of my colleagues at the BBC are freelancers, and they work in exactly the same way. But as you all know, mental health doesn't necessarily work in that way. So already I've had nights when I've gone to bed feeling physically anxious. Because of the uncertainty is one of the key things.
Yeah. So
going to bed, physically I can feel it's there because you don't know what's going to happen. We've got no control over it. So, one of my tips to people would always be try not to compare yourself to other people and give yourself a bit of slack. And you've got to sort of work through what's best for you, how you can best acclimatize to a new normal and get yourself through and do what you can, and hopefully. I understand the Chancellor was making some kind of announcement this afternoon, which was due to help self-employed people. So hopefully there's been some news while we're recording this that's going to help out Pete and other people, that a lot of people I care about a lot that have been, severely disadvantaged but at the moment by the means that are there. So it is a troubling time for us all, but we collectively doing stuff like this, I've done some virtual pubs with my friends, did one on Tuesday night where 5 of us got online and had a couple of hours on Zoom and had a catch up and a drink, and you can stay in touch with people. It is going to be weird, it's going to be different, but things like this are great because it means I've seen you guys today and we've chatted and done something like that.
Yeah, and that is one of the problems of this social distancing, isn't it? I went shopping for necessities for my family and my mother-in-law who lives on her own and who is poorly, and in the supermarkets, people are not talking no more. Half of the people are walking with masks on, which is completely understandable, but it's stopped us talking as well because everybody is so afraid that maybe talking I could catch it, and everybody is very much on that sort of blinkers on. I need to do what I'm doing and then I need to go home again. And I think that's what for me personally is I love nothing more than going to the supermarket and I see a Barnsley fan or I see somebody from work or somebody who lives on the street. Yeah. And that's all gone. And that's really hard to adjust to, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. And I did a supermarket shop this morning myself, a little bit for us, a little bit for my mum, who's self-isolating at the minute. And thankfully, it was Morrison's. You know, people were queuing outside, keeping the distance. There was queuing towards the tills that, by and large, was okay. And people were dealing with it probably better than I thought they were going to be dealing with it today. There was a bit more patience than I thought there was going to be. And I suppose we've just got to hope that as people get used to what this new normality looks like, of washing your hands all the time, you know, being socially distant from people, and what it looks like. But it feels so unusual. You know, I'm a big, you know, I like a handshake, I like a high five, I like a hug with your friends and all that kind of
Adam,
stuff.
I think me and you cuddle quite a lot, don't we, Adam, me and you?
Absolutely, mate. Well, you know, how would we have done my walk last year without, you know, a little cuddle at the end of it, or a big man hug, or whatever else? So just getting used to little things like that are quite difficult. But I think people being people, we will adjust. I think immediately, compared to a week ago, yes, there's a lot of frustration. Yes, there's a lot of people, particularly the self-employed, that are still going to work if they can, because that's how they need their money. But if you think about like people's mindsets last week to this week, I don't think people are panic buying as much. I think they've realised now that the shops will stay open, you know, as much as possible. You are going to be able to go out there and get it, as long as we're all sensible. And I think people will adjust. And I think, like Chris, you said at the start of this, it's going to be like, this chat will be really interesting in 1 week, 2 week, or 3 weeks' time, when we have had quite a lot of days where we're not doing a lot. We might go out for a run, we might go out for a walk, we might go to the shops. You might have done, I've pretty much done all the major house chores that I want to do in the last 2 days. So God knows, like in the next 3 weeks, and I want to keep busy. But you know what I mean? It's that kind of thing. I think we'll learn a lot more as the weeks go on.
Yeah, a lot of my friends have taken to writing a list, a timetable, you know, on a board, a list of chores and stuff to do. Just so it gives them some guidance, because, like I said, we're all used to structure, aren't we? You know what your Monday looks like. Carlo knows what his Monday looks like. Pete knows what his evenings look like. And all of a sudden, they don't look like that anymore. So it's hard to fill that void. It's important that we keep reminding ourselves to fill it. So I think mental health can be massively affected if we don't fill that void. We start to overthink things, and instead of being productive, I think the more we can be productive, the less chance that'll set in. Carlo?
Sorry, go on, Carlo.
Go on, Pete.
I think sometimes like it can overwhelm you just going to shops as well. Like, we went to local shop round here, and the amount of signs that are everywhere saying like that just panic you a little bit. And you like, and sometimes you think, oh, I'm just having a nice walk here. Then you're just reminded of like the signs and where you're supposed to be. It can overwhelm you and go like, shit, I'm looking forward to lying to my kids about how bad it was. That'll be fun. I'm going to say I didn't have a TV. We weren't allowed to open his windows. We just had to eat beans every day. Just lie to them, you know what I mean? Just make it sound worse than it was.
I think if I've learned anything, my situation's probably slightly different, because I am still working. I am still doing 7.5, 8 hours a day, but I'm working from home. My job involves contact with people. My job involves working with victims of crime. I've realised that actually I love being in our office. Yeah. I find it really hard to sit at home and talk to people over the phone, because you can listen to people over the phone, but you can't always judge perfectly how they're feeling. I'm okay is a sentence that loads of, oh, I'm okay, but actually they're not okay. And if you see somebody in the house, you can talk and you can work through that. And I've also found that I don't like change. I don't like working from home. I love my wife. I love my kids. I have to say that, because they're watching this later. I absolutely love them. But I also like 7 or 8 hours in the office and with people that obviously got a similar interest in me, working in the field that we do, sharing ideas, and actually being at home. That feels quite sort of like you're in a little bubble almost. And trying to then juggle what's expected from me of doing at home, because my wife will always say, do you think we should be doing the garden? I says, I think I should be doing the next video call, because, you know, I'm still working. And it just, any rule that there ever was seemed to have been, like the rule book's just been scrapped to one side, because it's all about, you stay 6 feet apart, you stay indoors, and you go outside for an hour. And I find that, maybe because I'm 48 and a bit older, but I find it really, really hard to adjust to. Really hard.
Yeah, but back on that, when you said you were 48 there, you said, I class everyone, you're all the same age as me, and you said, because you're all over 30. I've been 30 a month. All right. 30 last month. You're more than 30, we're all the same age, yeah.
Carlo, I just want to point out that Gary Tedford has arrived back on our screen. He's been there for a while now, bottom right.
Oh, I've only got... I'll have to apologise. The only screen I see is the person who's talking.
Yeah,
and if I'm talking, I see Chris.
Yeah, so Gary Tedford is here. I think, Gary, if you speak up, I could hear you then.
All right, lads, how you doing?
There we go.
Yeah, all right.
Hey up, guys. Are we all right? Is internet all right in Scotland? Struggling.
Yeah, the weather's terrible. I've just had to change onto my laptop there so that I could hear you now.
That's all right. Thanks for joining us, guys, at last. Better late than never. Obviously, you were doing your part, as always, for mental health. Did a lot with the Reds report recently for the Liam Jones legacy. And now you are going to go on a big bike ride if the football is returning come August.
I'm still training for it, but I got an email yesterday for the bike company saying the bike's going to be another 4 weeks. Obviously, I can understand. So I've managed to get a hold of I'm getting a loan of a mountain bike this weekend. So I'm going to just keep going as if the bike ride's going to go. It will happen. It definitely will happen. Whether it's the end of August, I don't know, but it's definitely going to go ahead.
Can we just talk a little bit about the Liam Jones legacy, Gaz? Because, we've been involved in any of the evenings that you've presented because we really, truly believe it's an excellent cause. The time, we say to people, it's good to talk. And we spoke about it earlier with Adam Oxley. You go to the football and you talk. You meet your mates in the pub. You have your routine of, I park there. I get a programme from him. I get a 50-50, draw ticket from there. I sit in my seat. That's all gone. Have you seen, or do you know if there's been an influx of people reaching out to the Liam Jones legacy? Because there is a real worry around mental health with people, especially self-isolating at the moment.
There has been an increase in the inbox the last 2 days, 3 days, and I think as the good weather comes in, that might drop. But when the bad weather starts again, because obviously, I've got bad weather today anyway, because we always get bad weather, but you are seeing nice weather at the moment.
It's beautiful here.
Oh, it's glorious down here, glorious.
It's genuinely lovely, yeah.
It's -6 up here, and I'm only joking. It's about 8 degrees. But yes, Carlo, there has been an increase, and I think if the good weather goes away, I think there'll be more when people are actually locked up. Some of the messages, obviously, I can't go into it, but my feel on it is routine, as you said when I came in earlier on. I'm the same as you, and I think a lot of people have got that. If they've got a routine, they're fine. As soon as that routine's broken, they're kind of a wee bit all over the place. They don't know what to do. You know what I mean? It's like I work 50 hours a week in the kitchen. I've not worked since last Friday. Yeah. I am literally climbing the walls. It's like I've cleaned up the house. I've went a walk. There's just only so much you can do. You know what I mean?
I think what it's shown me as well, Adam, which you'll do as well. Your job is being with people, interviewing people, and watching people at work. In essence, isn't it? I got a phone call at 2:30 on Saturday morning from my friend to say his wife had a heart attack at work and died. I can't go to his house because my wife is self-isolating, and obviously my mother-in-law is, so I can't go somewhere to try and he drove past our house today, and we were talking. I was stood at my front door, and he was sat in his car, and he said, I forgot how much talking actually means, because just talking on the phone gets you that far. But it's a bit like what you said earlier. It's the handshake, it's the hug, it's that. So it's like almost a bodily communication, isn't it? That makes people feel at ease.
Yeah, of course it is. I mean, it's changed the nature of what we're doing. I mean, I'll be back at work next week as long as I've not got any symptoms or anything like that. And journalists have been designated as key workers as well. So, I will be planning to go back into the office. The BBC has completely changed all our schedules now. Before, obviously, I was in the office on Monday. It was the first day of sort of our new world. And, we can't have studio guests in, so they're all on the phone. And we've got a combination of people working from home because their partners may be ill or they were self-isolating themselves. So you've got all these different working practices. And then when you're at work, you're trying to stay that 2 meters apart and sit at different desks and everything else. And all the different businesses will be going through this to find out everything else. I think one of the interesting things about sort of social contacts and what you were saying is, somebody messaged me on Twitter today and sort of asked the idea about doing a football heaven over the next few weeks, obviously because the scheduling change at the moment mean that we haven't got any slots on Radio Sheffield to do any sport. There's no sport happening. Absolutely, it's the right decision to make. But we've sort of got a little community of people, as the Reds Report has got a little community of people that listened in regularly. It's part of their week. And I'm sort of thinking about some of our regular callers like Brian the Miller and 2-1 Ken and Derek the Donny fan and all these kind of people that you'd regularly hear from on a weekly basis. You know, I want to make sure they're all right in a way. You just want to make sure these guys are still, you know, I'm finding it hard enough without football and I live in it, but there's people without the jobs and whatever else, and they might have, and you just don't know. So it'll be really interesting as things settle down. I think we're quite a useful bunch, really, human beings. When the chips are down, we tend to step up a little bit. Mentally, we can have a dip, and that absolutely, like Gary's been saying and everybody else, we're all going to have parts over these coming weeks and months where we struggle. But equally, we can be pretty resourceful as well. And we'll come up with ways, just like you're doing with this Reds Report, where we're not in the studio, we're recording this online, we're talking together. We will find ways of keeping each other in check. And as long as we don't just think about ourselves, we think about other people and we check in on your friends and your loved ones and your relatives and you're aware of whoever else, we will get through it. There you go, a bit of a sort of Churchillian rally towards the end on that one.
Yeah, and I have to say, I think... I'll be honest, I'm extremely biased because I only really follow Barnsley Football Club. Although there is no football, the players have been sent home. The club's been really good at engaging with fans. You know, we've had the sort of like quizzes that they've put out. They've asked which match this season do you want to relive live for free on iFollow. The latest one they've put out is it the match against Reading, where they've cut out the commentary and you can send in your own commentary and you can win the chance to sit with Matt Bailey and give commentary. And this is, I suppose, where football clubs have almost got like a social responsibility as well, because especially with Barnsley, people talk a lot about the money and the DNA and the model, but actually there's lads in the office that have to come up with something to try and keep fans engaged. Have you had any? I know you're on holiday at the moment, but are other clubs doing similar? And how are football players finding this? Because it's easy to say, oh, they're on this amount of money and that amount of money, but I think it's fair to say that footballers from a very young age are programmed to train and you know, and that regime, they play and then they have the warm down, and it's very regimented, isn't it? Besides maybe that 8-9 weeks in the summer holidays. Their routine has completely gone out of the window. Have you heard from any footballers how they are coping with this?
Well, it's their job. You know, they are professional footballers, but there's a big difference between a Premier League footballer who's currently at home not doing anything and a League Two or a non-league footballer who's sat at home, who are essentially self-employed people that are now not employed. Yeah. And the news, obviously, if you hadn't heard this afternoon, that essentially every league below the National North and National South have just had their seasons null and void. So there's no promotions, no relegations. That affects Penistone. It affects Atherley. It affects all the other local clubs, pretty much all the other local clubs in our area, because the only clubs we've got that are in the top 5 tiers are our main pro clubs. So everybody else, they're not going up, not going down. Staveley were top of their division. Penistone are only a few places beyond them. So it's interesting to see how it affects football all the way through. I think most of the footballers that I've seen are like most people. They're just bored. They're doing out the nut. But, you know, your championship footballers, you know, your Barnsley and Wednesday, your Premier League and Sheffield United, I'm sure they'll be all right because they'll have enough wedge in the bank to deal with it. But other people won't necessarily have that. So it's very interesting. Your point about what clubs are doing in this time, I think by and large football clubs are a community that I don't think many areas of society can claim that it has a sense of community. And we should be tapping into football clubs and sport more widely now, more than we ever have done before, because they are a focal point. There are ways to do it. And I think they've stepped up brilliantly. There's been some fantastic initiatives. You know, this the FIFA where the quarantine, where they're not online. You know, I'm not a big gamer myself, but you know, I used to like play Pro Evo back in the day, but I've not really played. But to see something like that's been really good. You know, classic matches. You know, just checking in with people. You know, I think there's like the writing competition that Barnsley are doing is really nice. And I just think that they have stepped up because there are those guys. We know the media guys at Barnsley really well, and I know the other media guys at all the other local clubs, and they're trying to fill that void. And, you know, at the moment, they're doing a really good job of it, but I imagine it'll get quite hard in weeks 2, 3, 4, 5. And when we suddenly realise that, you know, the football season may be either cancelled or put. I hope it isn't, by the way. I hope that we finish whenever, whether it's August, September, October. I don't really care as long as we finish. But the fact that seasons are starting to go in the non-leagues might have a ripple effect.
Gary, you're shaking your head there. What's your thought?
I just like you, Adam. I hope it does restart. I just can't see it. I just don't see where, because at the moment the government can't tell us how long we're going to be in lockdown. If they're going to move it another month, then you'll obviously know a bit better being a journalist. I imagine that all football contracts, players that are out of contract, will finish on the 30th of June, maybe.
Yeah, they do. They mainly finish then, Gary. I mean, I think that is the main and major stumbling block to seasons carrying on beyond the summer. The fact that people have got contracts. And I suppose at the top end of the game, there may be potential workarounds. But given that parts of non-league and also women's football today, has to be said, so Barnsley women, who were top of their division, on course for promotion, their season has gone today. So thoughts with Chris Hamilton and the whole team and everything that they've done this year, because what a fantastic job they were doing. Well, they've got to do it all again now. Is it the right call? Probably is. But in terms of being a football fan and a lover of football, it seems horrible. And if my main club was Barnsley Women or Stocksbridge or Staveley or Penistone today, and I just see my season go, then financially it may be the right call. It might be, but it doesn't sit very well with me. But there you go. The
other issue you've got as well is if you noticed that I've seen 2 GoFunds or Just Giving pages. One's Ardsley Rec and one is Penistone, so they're obviously struggling with the income as well. So
yeah, we recorded the Reds report a couple of hours earlier, and we spoke to the manager of Worsworth Bridge, Lee Morris, and they've set up a Just Giving page because he says bills still have to be paid. Yeah. And if nobody's coming through the door and there's no match sponsors or whatever, and there's a real danger of somebody's club ceasing to exist because of this damn virus, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. And they will all have to do this. I mean, some will have owners that are able to prop the clubs up a bit better than others. Others will have facilities. We had a bit of a non-league special last Saturday where we looked into this, and Lee Morris came on that as well. But there's some clubs, say like Stocksbridge, who don't own their sort of social facility at Bracken Moor. So they own the ground, but any money's coming in through that. Whereas, say, Handsworth, they do own their clubhouse, so they might be able to get some funds in. But it's one of these things we're going to have to rally around. Football has to find a way collectively to rally around and support all these teams. And there's various different funds and ways that they're looking at that. But there is enough money in football to get all the clubs at all the levels through this and make sure that they do. Outside of football, nobody's going to be really interested in helping football clubs because football is seen as being cash rich and by and large at the top of the game, it absolutely is. But other areas of society will get much better priority and probably deserve to be as well. But football clubs matter. They matter to communities, to fans, to everybody else. And we need to get them through it. And I just think every little bit that we can do to help our local clubs, the better. But football as a whole needs to find a way to make sure that no club goes under as a result of this.
You'd like to see big clubs stepping up. And I know some would argue it's not their job. However, without the small clubs, the big clubs aren't big clubs, are they? They're just clubs. Do you know what I mean? So obviously there's a lot of implications financially. But you'd like to think that the Premiership, with all the money that is within the game, it's a £1 billion game, isn't it? The Premiership. You'd like to see some of that filtered down at some point, some way, shape, or form.
It should be the FA for me. The FA should step in, and the EFL, they should just make a decision on it. Because obviously the Premiership clubs are not going to put cash out when they need it themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just think there needs to be a rule from the top.
It is difficult. It is difficult because there will be some clubs that have managed their budgets very well, and there'll be others that haven't. And I'll get the argument from some that, some are going to get some bailouts when they've not really looked after themselves. You look at your Boltons and Berries and things like that have happened recently. So It needs to be done in a fair way, absolutely. And it can't just be seen as a handout for, clubs that haven't managed the money very well. But equally, there's got to be some way that we can do this. It would be much cleverer people than us that need to work it out. But there, you can see those kind of arguments coming from people, and people do well. You look after number one first, and everybody would do. But there's enough money. My point is, there's enough money in the game to sort it out somehow.
Yeah, there should be. Can I just go around? Pete, start with you first. And I know we're moving slightly from the mental health, but we are talking about football. Given Barnsley's situation, then, how do you think this will be resolved? Will the season just say it never existed in the first place, a little bit like what they've done with these lower leagues? Do you think we will play on in the summer and maybe then start later on? What would you like to see, Pete?
Well, I think if they just null and void the season, I think every Barnsley fan would be happy with that. They'll do dire. I think they'll do everything they can to make sure the season ends, just because it's not fair on teams that are doing well. However, when it comes to promotion and relegation, I'd go with what the Bundesliga are talking about doing, which is, when the Premier League started in, was it 91, 92, where more teams went up and then they put teams down. So I'd be a fan of this, which is, I'd say everyone who's in the promotion phases maybe gets no relegation, everyone gets promoted, then more relegation next season to even it all out. That would be my... That's my...
Pete, are you saying that with your Barnsley FC shirt and Barnsley FC hat on?
For one, I think it'd be more... I think you get one season where it's really exciting. Imagine how loads and loads of relegations. So, for example, no, because I'm not... And I know why I think it's a Barnsley thing, but that means Leeds get promoted. But annoyingly, Leeds deserve to be promoted. I don't want to say it.
No, they don't.
They do. But I do. I don't say it. They're a good side. Whatever. Get them up, but just have more relegation next year. And I think that'd end up in a really exciting end to it, personally. But yeah, that's how I'd solve it. But
right, Gaz, how would you resolve it if the decision was in your hands? Because I suppose what other clubs could be saying, so you've got a West Brom and a Leeds who are clearly the favourites to go up in the Championship, but then there are teams that are very close in those playoff positions saying, what about us? How would Gaz resolve it?
That's exactly what I was just about to say. I do agree with Pete in some sort, but I just think you've got to null and void, because you can't put teams up that are not mathematically in that position and can be caught. As you say, Leeds and West Brom definitely should make it, but like your Liverpool, they can mathematically be caught. They're not going to get caught, but they can mathematically be caught. So what do you do? I think it'll either be null and void or what Pete says. I don't agree with what the idea is with Pete, like what Pete says, like 2 up and then 3 down or 4 down next year, because you say it'll affect the people that are sitting 4th and 5th. And this is from a Barnsley hat. I don't want Leeds to go up, me personally, so that's the reason why I don't want that. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sugarcoat it like Pete did.
It's accept it. I've accepted it. It hurts, but just let it happen.
Chris, one of the... Obviously, I want to hear from you as well how you would want to resolve it. The other one solution that I saw earlier, which won't come as good news to Barnsley, is look at a point per match ratio. And, look how many matches is left, point per matches, and that creates a final table. Obviously, that would exclude any, injuries to top players or a pick-up in form. But how would you resolve the season?
I think I can't see that getting the go-ahead. That'd be incredibly difficult to execute, wouldn't it? I mean, if you do go points per game under Stendhal or do you go points per game under Struber?
No, it's an average of all the games so far.
Ah, right. Well, yeah, that won't suit us, would it?
No.
No, I can't see that being. And I think Pete has probably got the best idea. I would imagine that's the way to go. That was my idea after probably 2 or 3 days thinking, how would I... That's my original thought. I would go with that. Bundesliga are obviously thinking about doing that. Is that right, Pete?
Yeah. They're thinking about it in Germany.
So I can't see how you do it other than
18. But Bundesliga is 18 teams. So I think the Bundesliga is planning to make it a 20-team league as of next season. So then, it all evens out. So then the Bundesliga will be 20 teams, etc.
Yeah, I mean, nobody complain at a 22-team Premiership because we all love watching Premier League football, don't we? all right, we might not watch the Leeds games. That's fine. But no, I think Pete's probably got the right idea, but I'm glad I'm not making that decision. I'm glad it's way above my pay grade because regardless of which way they go, there'll be people that are upset.
Yeah, there will be, because Adam, potentially, and I know we've got a general feeling amongst the 4 Barnsley fans on this forum that we don't like to see Leeds go up, although they probably deserved it. On the other hand, there are European competitions, and I will call them neighbours at Sheffield United, will potentially be saying, because what would happen with European competitions? Who's going to qualify for what? Are we going to play the FA Cup final? So how would you, I can't say the man in the know, but you talk to football clubs, is there a feeling generally of people how... Should it just be played on until it finishes and then we'll start next season later? Or how do you see it resolved in the best possible way?
Well, we threw this out on Football Heaven before, obviously, all the scheduling changes came in for lots of views. And null and void the season came out of 4 options, top on 35% from our unscientific Twitter poll. But essentially, what has happened there is obviously Barnsley and Wednesday fans have all voted for that. And Sheffield United and Rotherham fans want the season to be finished because clearly Rotherham are in a great position, Sheffield United are in a great position, Donny probably care less, and Chesterfield have just started to get to a point where they're heading towards mid-table in the National League. It's one of those things where you've got to try and take your club colours off, which is very difficult for everybody. I think I'd love the decision to be based purely on football, and if it is, then I'd want to see the season finished whenever that is, irrespective of time frames. I think if it knackers up next season, then so be it. Have some cup competitions, do something in the interim. We are too close to the end of this season for me to be giving it up. But I think what Pete said earlier and what Gaz said in terms of contracts, I suspect that financially it's going to have to be finished in some way this summer or ended. I've come round to the idea of behind closed doors games only on the basis that if that's the only way for us to finish this season, say in June and July, playing some games behind closed doors to get the season finished, otherwise the only other alternative is null and void, then I'd go for that. Personally, I don't like the idea of behind closed doors. We asked all 6 of our local pro managers about it. None of them wanted it. None of them liked the idea of it. And as fans, you don't want to see it. I just want it to personally. I just want it to finish. But I just think there's so many vested interests in it that I think it will. There will be some kind of resolution this summer, and it won't go into next year. Is my gut feeling.
I think, to be honest, I agree with you there as well. I obviously wanted to finish because I hate not coming down for the football and stuff. But where I think is they're obviously going to give it as much time as possible.
Yeah.
But obviously with the Euros getting cancelled, which is great because it means I don't need to come down and put everybody's bins out, which is brilliant. But honestly, I get some right stick on Facebook and stuff about this. But with that going off, we don't actually know. I think today they've made a decision on the lower leagues because they have to for obviously players' wages at the bottom end. But the Premiership and stuff, they're going to give it as long as they possibly can, I think. Because this could blow over in a month. It could be 6 months. They don't physically know. And I think that's the big issue that they've got. They don't want to make a decision.
Yeah, no, I agree. And they will leave it as long as possible to do it. And I think that's the right thing. But I don't think they have an answer to that contract element yet. Or the sort of finite element. And I think what they've done at the moment is buy themselves some time. Obviously, they're now UEFA are looking at changing the way that the European competitions could potentially end, single knockout games or whatever else. So people are being pretty flexible around this. I think it will. You're right. It will come to a head in the summer. And like the lower leagues that we've been talking about, there was something in that they had to get all their fixtures fulfilled by the 25th of April within the rules and regs. I don't know what those rules and regs are for some of the others, but I think the general feeling is in football that if it can be finished, it will. But I also think that once this has gone on for a few weeks and people have looked into it a bit more, we'll probably get a little bit more information to influence how we all think about it. Because at the moment, I'd want to wait and see what we could do but they might come up with some things in the next few months that say, look, due to X, Y, and Z contracts, fees, plans, broadcasting, whatever it is that we have to finish. But how do we? So it'll be fascinating to watch, and I just like Chris. I just hope that they come out with an answer that we're all as satisfied as we can be with, and that's all it is. Because not everybody will come out of this with what they want. I mean, that at the end of the day, somebody's going to lose out of this situation. And I think everybody's just got to prepare themselves that this isn't going to be ideal, whatever happens.
Yeah, and I think the point that Adam makes, Carlo, is a very good one. Not like Adam Oxley to make a good point, is it?
I can remove him from the call if you want. If you want Chris removing, just put your hand up and I can do that.
The decision can't be made because to make such a decision that affects so many livelihoods and so many things, you need to gather all the information first. Nobody has that information. The top people in this country who run the country don't have all the information and how this virus develops. So,
well, I fully agree because I think having looked into it a little bit, we seem to be on the similar timeline as what Italy were, although about 8, 9, 10 days behind. This is just going to get worse, and ultimately it will start to affect people that either make decisions in football, that are involved in football clubs, and if they were to say we will restart the competition at a certain date, well, players either have been ill, they've not trained together, so it's not a date of at that date we start again. And I think because this virus will get worse and worse, I don't think a decision will be made till about the end of May, early June. Is there enough time then logically to play all these games, to have a summer stop, to then start again? I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I know I miss my football, and I know I want to see. Listen, if I had a choice, I'd rather see all the matches being played, Barnsley relegated, if so were to be, as long as I could go back next season and watch them again. Because ultimately, I'd like to see them as high as possible. But if that's League One, as long as I can go. My fear at this moment in time is I miss it so much, and we don't seem to have other outlets. But it is a conundrum, isn't it? Because the decision has to be made on variables and nobody makes the variables. There's no rule book. We can't say 6 years ago we did it like this because we're making the rules up as we are, aren't we, Chris?
Whoever's making that decision is certainly earning their wage this year because that is a huge decision. I'm glad I'm not round that table.
The other thing for me as well is, lads, and you might agree on this or not, the clubs are obviously going to get their input on it. They're at least going to want 2 to 3 weeks before the decision. So if the decision is made that we're starting on this date, they're going to want 2 or 3 weeks to train together. Or you know what I mean? That's another. That could be another 2 weeks to a month. So I just don't see where it's going to. I hope I'm wrong, but I just don't see how they're going to get it started.
Right, I want to do the rounds again to sort of stop this show. Gaz, I've got you on my screen because you're the last one that talked. So I'll start with you. Can you give me a positive message for people that are listening and that are struggling? First of all,
just go about doing your jobs and in the house. Keep yourselves busy. Go out in the garden if you've got a garden, and also remember that there's always people on Facebook and Twitter that you don't know. I mean, we seen it last night on Twitter where I think the Barnsley fans called Dave BFC put a tweet on about his father being self-isolated, couldn't get his mother's in a care home. I mean, I quoted the tweet myself from Arders Red's account. Read some of the replies on it. They were brilliant. They were absolutely brilliant. People that didn't know him were like thanking the old guy. There's always somebody out there that will answer you. More so than Liam Jones' legacy. We're there 24/7.
Very good. Pete, what about you? Any sort of wishes of good luck or anything positive to put out there as we wrap this podcast up, mate?
Start cooking. I think a lot of people like it's a good release because they're like if you're a bit stuck in the house all the time, just make a more elaborate meal. Do something a bit fancy. Do something nice for yourself. Don't just have like a fish finger sandwich. That's what I'm doing a lot of my time, and it's making things a bit nice. You know what I mean? I'm bad carb, and also just be nice to each other on social media. Like my missus runs about like mental health and positivity and all that. It's just really relevant. She sells like pins off and stuff, and she's getting like dogs abuse for it, and I have no idea where that's come from. Do you remember that Be Kind thing? It lasted about a week.
3 weeks.
So like
Yeah.
everyone's feeling shit. Let's be nice to each other. Basically, that's it.
Yeah, superb. Chris, what about you? A message of positivity.
Yeah, I think my message would be, I think Gary alluded to it, social media is massive. A minute in time, it feels like we're all very far apart. But if we can use social media as a great tool, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, let's say some nice positive things about each other. Pete obviously mentioned the negativity as well. So it's good to be positive to each other, tell each other jokes if we need to, silly videos, that's always fun. I'm really enjoying my routine. My routine helps. I've drawn that up pretty quickly. If you're a man of routine like myself and Gaz, if you get into a routine, you know what's happening, what time of day, do that. Make sure you use your one piece of exercise per day wisely. And get on a good walk. I know Adam Oxley loves a good walk.
Amen.
Get out as far as you can. See as much as you can, really, and just try and appreciate what we've got, really. So yeah, I think that's my main message, Carlo. Sorry for rambling on. It will be
No.
and just appreciate everything we can at the minute, and grab it all and look after each other.
Very good. Adam, what about you? Your message of positivity for everyone out there.
I think the other gents have covered a lot of things very, very well there. I think be kind to yourself is a message, because we can all be very hard on ourselves. It's easy at this time to catastrophize and look at what might happen in a worst case scenario. Flip that on its head if you can. You know, there's lots to be grateful for. What we're doing this week, so obviously we're meant to be in Scotland for the week doing the North Coast 500. Meant to be travelling from Inverness today up to the coast up there.
Not sure why anybody would go to Scotland by choice, if I'm honest.
Well,
Hey.
also,
Lads, let him finish.
Sorry, Adam.
But the point being, what we decided was, like, my wife's clawed a bit of time back this week so she can work from home, so that we can use that time a little bit further. I've got to use my leave up because I've, accrued so many with going around the country. But what we're doing, like this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, that's our holiday. So no sort of thoughts of, I need to do this in the garden, or I need to do this in the house, or whatever else. We're just going to actually have that as a proper chill out. So it's a few days where you're not nagging yourself. So if this does go on for a while, then yeah, you might want to do Monday to Friday, where you do a few practical things, but then have Saturday and Sunday as your weekend. Chill out. And like Chris says, if that helps you with a bit of routine, so yes, you might do a few more practical things in the day, but then watch a bit of TV at night, then keep to it, and just look after each other, just check in on people, and just make sure your friends are all right, make sure your family's all right, and we will get through it. We will get through this.
Yeah, I very much echo everything that you've been saying. I have been saying to some of my friends as well, for all of those with kids, which obviously we've got our disabled foster son. I've got my daughter at home and my son, and you can see that they're looking at us as adults to see how we deal with it and to take that stare of us. And I keep saying, and I said it again to somebody today, it's okay to make mistakes. There is no right or wrong,
Correct.
Because we're in a situation that everybody's unfamiliar with. Try and do what's best for your family. And I think if we all try and be kind to each other, today, I actually said it, my neighbour said it, we know each other really well. In the summer, we might have a barbecue, and the rest of the year, you tend to sort of be blinkered and just get on whatever you need to do. And actually, I went out to do some shopping for my mother, and I said to her, do you need anything getting? Oh, could you please? And I just think, if we're just kind to those around us, I think that pays back. And if it's not today or tomorrow, future in time as well. But again, those people with kids, try and stay relaxed, talk to each other, because I think kids can get really stressed. I've seen it with my daughter being hyper anxious because of she's looking at us and thinking, I think they just need something. They're not at school where they all used to be. They're afraid they're going to get this virus that's sort of killing people. And actually putting things in context and keep talking to each other about doing safe, keep washing your hands, keeping that social distance. I'm sure we'll all get through this. I'm pretty sure that sometime in 2020, us five will meet at Oakwell after we've beaten somebody 3-1. More than likely, that'll be, maybe, Worsborough Primary School that won some sort of competition. But still, it was a win, and we're going to talk about that. And I want to thank each and every one of you for taking time out. A, for taking time out to talk about this. B, it was a little bit like a virtual pub, like a virtual fan zone, Chris, wasn't it? We might not have had a drink, but we've done more talking now than we probably would have done if this crisis wasn't about.
Yeah, brilliant, Carlo. Well done putting this together. It's nice. Do something a little bit different, Art Boy. I'm more than happy to do it again in 2 weeks if we all want to get together for a chat. That'll be brilliant. It's nice to see Adam Oxley as always. Good looking chap.
Definitely. And from that point of view, when I'm not saying it, I mean, Gaz has always been a supporter and everything, but I think Adam as well. We look up at Adam Oxley because he works for the BBC and he's like a proper journalist, everything. But he's always made time to either talk to us, to come onto the show, to come onto the fan zone. And if there was more people like the people on this forum, I'm sure the world would be a much better place. So can I thank you all, each and every one? Thank you very much.
You're welcome.